Okay, I'm gonna talk really fast because my phone keeps cutting out like at the very end saying there's not enough space. I don't know what's taking up my storage because I've deleted almost everything now. I don't know, maybe I might have been hacked or something, who knows? Um, Either way, I had to write all this down just because it's about just a typical day in the life of a target and just the small nuances, the things that go on. Um, I, I, I I just needed to write it down in order to keep everything in order. Here we go. A few days ago, I got home and my locked box was unlocked. I don't know if I forgot to lock it before I left or if they came in, unlocked it, gained access to my personal documents, and then left it unlocked for me to find. Not knowing is what makes it so hard. They want us to question our reality. I'm sure I locked it, but what if I didn't? Right? And when you're a target, you can't make mistakes like that. In some cases, like in the worst cases, a mistake like that can be life or death. But they have us so drained, so exhausted physically and mentally. At some point, we're going to make a mistake. We're going to forget something. We're human. Then you kick yourself for it. Anyway, I had so much to do today that I didn't get far from the building though until like around noon, and it was very frustrating. It was a very frustrating day. Um, Nothing can be easy. I had to do laundry first. So there are four washers. Two were broken, one had slimy water in it, and the other two had clothes in them, though they weren't running. The washers weren't running. So I left my laundry bag in the laundry room and went out to run a quick errand. A quick errand. Normally I don't leave stuff where others can get to it, but I wasn't about to drag everything back upstairs. I was out for about 20 minutes and then I came back, 20, 30 minutes, I don't know. And then I came back, and when I came back, a guy from the building was putting his clothing into the washer that had dirty, grimy water in it. We greeted. He asked me about the washers, and I explained what was happening and that the one he was throwing his clothing into was dirty. He checked, and sure enough, he saw it. So he took his clothes out and put them on the opposite end of the table from my own. Whoever had their stuff in the two working washers still hadn't come back. We chatted a little, and he asked me how many years I've been here and how I liked the building. Fast forward. He left his stuff there, right? He left his stuff, and he went back upstairs or something or whatever. And I waited for whoever had their stuff in those washers to come back so I could finally load my own clothing. Finally, the woman whose clothing had been sitting there by that point for a half hour, a little over that, walked back into the laundry room. Good news, right? Nope. She mumbled something under her breath, like, here we go, and started to pay to start the washers. Like she slid her card to start the washers. I swear I was slack-jawed at that moment. I looked at her and said something like, wait, you're not done washing yet? And she said something like, no, sorry. So all I can think of is that maybe she must have come down, loaded everything, forgot her card, to pay, or detergent or something, and then she went back for it, but she left her stuff in the washer. But literally she didn't come back for a half hour or more, right? So she left her clothing in the only two functional machines for nearly an entire cycle. I could have washed my clothes in that time and been almost done by the time she came back. So now I would have to wait another half hour. I went out to run another errand. All of this shit while my clothes were sitting on the table downstairs, and when I got back, there was another woman in the laundry room. Now she seemed really nice. She asked me about the washers, including the one that was clearly dirty, because she had put her clothes in that one, and she had already paid too, but it didn't start. I told her that she should probably call management, and that, they'll figure out what to do. Right at that point, the other woman walked back in, finally, right? So I'm thinking, great, now I'll be able to do my laundry, but not so fast. She was on her phone, okay? She was talking on her phone, and she kept the camera pointed in my direction the entire time. Then she stood at the washing machine talking. She knew I was waiting there, yet she just stood there talking on her phone, with the camera pointed at me. I knew if I showed anger, it would probably be recorded, and she could use that later to complain about me. So I tried to keep a straight face, but I was getting irritated. I sighed. That's all. I looked at her and sighed. She looked back at me sideways, clearly irritated. I guess I'm going to be the bad guy now. So then we had what was kind of an awkward three-way conversation with both of us talking to the other woman, but not to each other. Every time I said anything, she looked at me as if she was angry with me. Then the other woman brought up the question about reimbursement. Like, will she be reimbursed for her money? Because I guess she had slid her card a few times, like trying to get it to work. And they took like 5 times the money out. Okay, so yeah, she was curious. She wanted to know whether she'd be reimbursed. The other woman said, no, probably not. But see, that's not true. The building will reimburse you for it. So and I wasn't mean, and I said so, but I wasn't mean about it, right? I very casually explained that the building would reimburse her. But the other woman gave me such a dirty look when I said that. You'd think I had said something bad to her or called her something bad. Like, I mean, what the fuck, right? Then she stomped off in the other direction. And maybe she was mad that I contradicted her, but what was I supposed to say? She gave false information. Anyway, but she was being super nice to the other woman that we had both been talking to, almost making a point to be overly nice while being cold to me. Then she unplugged the washer for the other woman and plugged it back in. That seemed to do the trick. It did start again, so that's good. So they introduced themselves to each other, and it almost seemed staged. Maybe it was. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, and that one woman did seem really nice, but you never know. So anyway, the kind of mean woman looked directly at me as she gave her name. I'm not going to say what her name was, but it was the same name as a relative of mine that died when I was 15 years old. And I had been thinking about that person, my relative, today and yesterday for a few days now. I had been thinking about her. This is how it's done. Okay, fast forward. I loaded my clothing into the washers, and at some point we all left. I went back upstairs for a few minutes, and as I was walking up, someone was walking down, camera out and pointing it in my direction, right in my face. They do that a lot. They'll be walking down as I'm walking up, and they hold the camera right at me. The guy that I was talking to today also has done that a few times, but he also seems really nice. So he might not be one of them. Maybe this is just how things are now, with technology. It's hard to know. And I don't want to be hostile to someone who's genuinely nice and who's not part of this program. It's just, you never know. So I went out again to run a few more errands, totally flustered by this point, wondering if that had all been part, of a staged event. As I walked about a block down, a man came up to me, like an middle-aged older man. He came up to me and in a heavy Eastern European accent asked me for directions. Now, there's nothing peculiar about asking someone for directions, except for the fact that people don't usually ask me unless I'm in a frazzled and discombobulated state. It's almost like they're trying to test my cognitive performance under pressure. That's what it seems like. Anyway, when I got back to the laundry room, the nice woman was about to unload her washer. We chatted for a bit until our washers stopped, and she asked me how long I've been there and whether I like it. In the building, how long I've lived here. I rarely answer questions like that because I don't know if the person I'm talking to might be working for the building. I gave her the same answer I give the guy. Could be worse. So she put our clothes in the dryer and left as I waited for the last washer to stop. Like, one of my washers had already stopped, but I was still waiting for the last one to stop. So the one that had stopped, I was just about to unload and go over to the dryers and put those clothes in the dryer. And the other woman came back in, and she walked over to the dryers, and quietly, under her breath, she hissed the word, evil. And there I had my answer. This was a psyop. They have people repeat things that I say and do in private, and sometimes things that I said while talking to someone else, or something someone else told me that evoked strong emotion, but had nothing to do with me personally. Anyway, this morning I was thinking about how truly insidious the stalking is, and that those who engage in this type of warfare at this level, where they're just following you around and they know they're infiltrating your life and they know they're trying to hurt you, right? They must be truly without conscience, right? Evil in a way that can only be described as biblical. And I'm not even religious, but that's the only way I can describe this. And so this morning, and this is before all of this happened, it was early in the morning, as I was thinking that, I hissed to myself under my breath the word evil. and I felt it. It was visceral. It was primal. And then I said it again. So fucking evil. And I kept repeating it. I just kept repeating it, but not loudly. So it's not like they could have heard me unless they had cameras or microphones in the apartment. Right? It was a primal response to something so horrific that it seems almost unhuman, that anyone could engage in such a thing. Yeah. So when they had her repeat it later today, right, what they were doing was making it known to me that they could hear me in my apartment, which is something I already knew, that we already know this happens to us, right? All of us. But, it's not just that. It's the fact that she lives here, right? They're moving people in. It's someone who actually lives here. They want us to be in a constant state of panic, of fear, of stress, right? They want to keep our cortisol levels high so we can never relax. We're in a constant fight or flight. That'll wear us down psychologically, physically, in every possible way. When you don't even have a safe place to go to, when not even your home is safe, you're never able to really calm down. It hastens the destruction. Yeah, so as soon as she said that, right, I knew that she was involved with the stalkers. They're moving them into the building now. Anyway, she looked very unhappy with me as I walked out, and all I could think was, I hope this passes and her anger blows over. Now, get what I just said. I hope she doesn't stay angry with me, as if I did something wrong. And that's the mental state they try to put their targets in. They wage warfare against their targets. And then they get angry when the targets respond in a less than positive manner. And since we're also used to people destroying our lives, and looking for any excuse to do it, it seems better to just let it go and hope it goes away. Even when they're really fucking with you. The problem with the perpetrators is that they really do hate the targets. They're told horrible things about those they're sent to go after. And so they're already coming into this with a negative impression of the target. And so when the target begins to break down and show distress or, God forbid, anger, the perpetrator sees that as proof that the target is whatever negative thing he or she was warned about. Perpetrators don't have a whole lot of common sense, not much understanding of cause and effect, action and reaction. And since they're already expecting us to be bad, any reaction we give other than happy, positive doting is going to lead them to that conclusion. Plus, they need to justify themselves. They need to justify what they are doing to their target. And so they need to believe that the target is this horrible person who deserves whatever is happening to him or her. And since the perpetrators really are not that bright, they can't self-analyze enough to see past their own bullshit. They can't understand how they're twisting this in their own mind to see and believe and think what they want and what they need to in order to justify what they're doing. I'm kind of worried though. I'm afraid this might be the catalyst they use to really start shit in this building. When the stalking campaign seemed to begin decades ago, there was one argument online that was used as a means to start the full-blown attack. Though in reality, I know now that it was all a setup. It was set up that way, right? And they had been waging war on me for years prior to that, and they expected me to respond in the way that I did, which they would then use to attack me. That was the point where they baited me for a response that they fully intended to use it as an excuse to wage full-blown war on me. Okay, it was all a setup. All right, that was the moment where they took it to the next level, where I could no longer ignore that something horrible was happening. So now I'm worried it's going to happen again, and this is the beginning of the end for me in this building. And when I say happen again, they haven't stopped the stalking campaign. I mean a repeat of last time, where it suddenly just amps up, right? Right, so finally I did get my laundry done and was able to go out and finish all the shit I had to do today. What they're doing now is sending people to pass me by with really loud cars, and they're revving their engines. They do it at night too. They have people drive by and rev their engines so loudly, they must not care about waking up the entire damn neighborhood. So, moving forward, right? About a mile from where I live, they had this guy walk toward me, mimicking my mannerisms and my awkward movements. He was squinting as he looked at his phone, moving it close to his face and then farther away as he stumbled sideways as if he were drunk. Now, I do that a lot, unfortunately. I have balance and spatial issues, so I do often tend to veer off sideways. It's actually been pretty bad recently, which is why they had this idiot mimic this particular thing. And of course, they have him overdo it, which makes it seem as if I look crazy when I'm doing it. But anyway, regarding the woman in the apartment, you want to know what the most frustrating thing about this is? Just by the woman's appearance, I could tell that we could have been friends. Like, she's kind of more alternative, she's tattooed, we probably share similar political views. But because of this sick fucking program, they have us turned against each other. And the fact that they cut off communication, they cut off communication between the perpetrators and the targets, that's how they get away with it. If we were to communicate honestly, it would be us versus them, not them dividing all of us. And that's why they keep pumping out into society more and more excuses to try to silence people. Right? It's only because of our silence that they can get away with this. I can't even imagine how many people there are who end up going along with this program without even realizing it. And in one way or another, helping the psychopaths destroy innocent people, and including their own allies. But they're doing it witlessly. Like they don't understand what they're doing. And people who would these are people. Some of these people are they never would have started this shit to begin with if they knew the truth. And that's why the rulers try to silence us so that we can't speak. So those people never hear the truth. But I'm going to speak. I'm going to speak. Neither the conservatives on the far right who are criminalizing free speech, nor the other side that seems to be coming up with every hocus pocus guru spiritual crap, excuse to get people not to talk about negative things. None of this is going to stop me from trying to spread the word and explain to people what's happening to